Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the Science of Self. Thanks for joining us today. I'm happy to introduce to you our guest, Debbie Dobbins, author of Your Inner Billionaire.
I'm calling myself the barefoot thought leader because I love being barefoot. Like I've spent a lot of time in Playa del Carmen, Mexico on the Caribbean, which is where I wrote my book, Your Inner Billionaire. And I've had people say to me quite often, that actually, I don't really want to be a billionaire. And I realize that I don't want to be a billionaire either in my bank account, but I want to be a billionaire inside so that I enjoy life from the same perspective that billionaires do, which is the sense of freedom. So, my primary clients are women, and I help women awaken their inner billionaire because it isn't a journey of finding and discovering yourself, it's about revealing yourself. So, that's my mission in life is to have everyone reveal their inner billionaire. It's just about uncovering who you truly are.
A real billionaire, if we're talking in terms of dollars, obviously has none of those worries that the rest of us have about day-to-day paying bills and keeping
Mhm.
food on the table or paying for the house, keeping the roof fixed and so forth. The inner
Right.
billionaire, if the roof is leaking, what do they do?
Well, first of all, I approached this from a holistic place because when I wrote the book, I was telling my story. I wrote this as a love letter to myself that I've been an abundance teacher for probably 30 years. And I did approach it of how to make money and how to have a mindset, which is really fantastic. We need all of that. And yet, I was diagnosed with cancer about 6 years ago. And what I found was I didn't have medical insurance, even though that seems to be a popular thing to get these days. I didn't have it. And I ended up being flat broke. So I was flat on my back and flat broke. And I often say in this book, it's about those moments when you have these critical problems show up in your life. Literally, I was on food stamps. So I know what that feeling is like. It's not as if I really understand being an inner billionaire from the perspective that I've had all these opportunities in my life. I actually have been where that person would be without the ability to pay for the roof. And the fact is that you can focus on the poverty of not being able to fix the roof because the more you focus on that, the more the roof won't be fixed. Or you can begin to adopt some of the principles that I share in the book, which begins with gratitude, which I have two chapters on gratitude because gratitude is the gateway to everything. I can't say that enough. So even if the roof is falling down and you don't have the money, the first thing you have to do, and this is probably going to everybody's going to go, "Oh, that's impossible." Is you have to be grateful. This is the situation that I'm in. What do I do next? Here's the thing is that we can always build a story however we want to build the story. That's the thing about our brains. And that's why I do love neuroplasticity so much, is because you can shift and morph that. You can create new grooves in your brain anytime you want. And yet you still have to start with this body by feeling that emotionally, because it's the frequency of our emotions in our body that actually project what we're seeing on the outside. So, just to use the roof example, if I'm sitting in the middle of my living room and I have a leaky roof and I see that I have no money, and if I start to focus on all the negative, I'm going to see more of that. So, it really is so important for us as the human species to stop blaming and pointing fingers and complaining and start really operating at a very high vibration, which is gratitude and giving and loving and communication and connection and all these good, happy qualities. But they truly do build a life around you that is absolutely sensational.
So, to cultivate the gratitude, do you recommend a gratitude journal as you might read a lot of places?
Any type of gratitude is good. The more you can resonate in your body with it. So everyone is, well, a lot of people, I wouldn't say everybody. I have a family member that doesn't understand how to tap into their feelings. But we do have these emotions, and the emotions are the things that cause the chemical reactions in our body that then charge up the frequency. I call our brains our little AIs right now because the AI is connected to the nervous system. So it really is about slowing down, number one. So whether you're going to do a journal, You're going to do it through meditation, or you're going to do it just by being out in the world. I'll drive in my car and I can bring myself to tears, literally, because I am so grateful. I've always appreciated my body, and I think I really began to appreciate it even more when you're staring death in the face. You just have a different appreciation. And so just now moving through science, and I've really loved understanding neuroscience and just put it in context with this physical body that has all of these stored emotions and chemicals, and then it's connected with the vagus nerve. And it's just a big, beautiful. I had a friend that went to Scientology years ago, and he calls, and I find myself saying this every once in a while, this meat stick that we walk around in. I mean, it's an amazing vessel, right? It's got all these different looks to it. But in the reality, we're a meat stick with an AI on top of it. And we're just navigating the world. Everything is not matter, it's energy. So this has a frequency. This piece of paper has a frequency. This book has a frequency. We have a frequency, and our frequency is predicated on a couple of those factors that you just shared. And it is the brain wave frequencies, the theta, the delta. And so I became a hypnotherapist. Oh gosh, I was telling this to somebody else the other day. I can't believe it's over 30 years ago, like 1995 or something. And that's when I really began to learn about the brain frequency. So, like everything is now, you can have an EKG and they can measure those frequencies. And so, the slower the frequency in your brain, we'll just use that one for the first part of this conversation. Beta is where we're in beta most of our waking life. Beta is like it's like staccato. The higher your stress level is, the more your beta is. What we want to do is get into the alpha, which is a slower brainwave pattern. And if you've ever seen it, it's just like looking at a sound graph. Once you get down to alpha and then beta and theta, those are the receptivity brainwave patterns. So that's why hypnosis or meditation allows you to begin to implant things that bypass your unconscious gateway, because that's really what keeps us stuck. We're in beta, we're just repetitive, we're doing what the AI tells us, and we keep going forward. But the fact is that between age 1 and 7, our brains are in that alpha pattern, which is the receptive pattern. This is when we're taking imagine, I always call this our AI. So if we program AI and we give it the right information, it's always going to be able to share back what questions we're asking. That's why I love AI so much. And it's just moving us in a different direction. But the fact is, when we're 1 to 8, we're downloading information and we're making our judgments then and building our stories about what life looks like. Then once you hit past 8-ish, you close the window, right? Then we go into that beta. So now what we do is we take all the information and we begin to project. These are my beliefs. This is how the world operates. Now I'm going to create it, because we are the great creators. So easiest way to describe a binaural beat is a frequency going in one ear. You have two headphones with it. One ear, say it's at 4 beats per second, and this one's at 3. What happens is your brain has to reconcile it. And while it's doing that, it takes you. And the first time I ever heard about binaural beats, it said it takes you immediately to that same state of mind that Tibetan monks get in. And I went, well, I'm all on that program. Please sign me up. And what I discovered is that it works. And it is absolutely phenomenal how deeply you can get into meditation if you use binaural beats. But there's so much of it on the YouTube and the internet now that sometimes I question whether or not they're really truly. I've created my own. But it is so fascinating how we can just allow the brain to more or less just center and link into what is that true receptive energy, which is alpha, theta, and delta waves. I'll just say religion is dogmatic and spirituality is consciousness, the way I perceive spirituality. We're all conscious. My version of spirituality is that we're all one. That's the end of the story. So if we're all one, then we're all, seeing each other as godlings walking around the planet. And religion is very much, and I have some amazing friends and I've studied religion. that there are some beautiful essences of most religions, probably all, I should say. And they all have this common golden thread that run through them, which is spirituality. It's the dogma that sandwiches them together that sometimes can be off-putting to people. But I know people in every religion that are as spiritual as all get out, because when you begin to really dive into the essence of spirituality, it is consciousness. And that's what I believe we're all headed for, ultimately, wherever consciousness is. I believe that there needs to be an owner's manual for how we as humans operate that's given to us in the delivery room. Like, we don't have any idea. We're just trying to figure it out. And so now there's a lot of information, but those stories, whether they're cognitive, the way you describe them, or I call them a money story, they're just stories. That's all they are. And I use this example. There was a gentleman on a documentary I was watching not too long ago, and it was about people having traumatic experiences. Literally, a lady was completely burned from head to toe. And, we can all come through these horrific experiences. But this one gentleman was hit by a semi truck. I think he might have been on a bike. Anyways, he was devastated. He almost did die. And he resented the person that hit him for years. So we get to the point in the story where he's talking to a therapist, and he says, I got hit by a truck and I almost died. And the therapist said, You got hit by a truck. And he says, And I almost died. And he said, But you're sitting right here. To say that cancer saved my life sounds really incongruent on so many levels. Yet that really is truly, I've never been happier. I've never been healthier. I've never been wealthier than since that time. And it truly began with the incubation of just being with me. Like, there wasn't any, I lived by myself in California when this was going on. And I also was able to see how amazing manifestation, if that's the word that we want to use so that people can understand it, is available to all of us. I mean, I had the best doctors, I had the best surgeons, I had the best medical treatment that just came out of nowhere. Literally, when I was diagnosed, I went, okay, I don't have insurance. What am I going to do? And they just started coming. People were showing up to give me food. People were showing up to take care of my cat when I had to go into the hospital for surgeries. I had the most amazing nurses. And so it was just this blend of really being, once again, going back to the whole gratitude thing, that I could be so grateful for a time in my life that so many people would have said, Wow, I don't want to be in this experience. And yet I just blessed it every step of the way. The first, I've got a time bender process that helps you create more time for yourself, because what we do is we live in this world of stress and overwhelm, and all of that is keeping us from our good. So now, with all this AI help, we should be having these lives that are much more expansive, and I still see people working harder and longer. So to find out more about anything, you can put thedebbidobbins.com. That's my website, and it'll lead you to some of the programs. But I would say the best thing you can do right now is opt in for the Divine Wealth Activator. Just type in divinewealthactivator.com. And it's a great jumpstart to begin to start building that consciousness for wealth building. Yeah. So one of the things I start out in the course with I call it Ignite Your Inner Billionaire. So we take the book and do it in a course. And anybody can do this just by this simple instruction. I call it future journaling, but there's not a journal involved. Imagine that you're talking to a friend about your future. So I woke up today and you can't believe the deal that I got. Oh my gosh, everybody is so excited to be working with me. So future journaling is just about being in the present moment as if it's happening right now, but letting that energetic feeling come up into your body. You can do it anywhere, anytime. And even if people are listening to you, they don't know who you're talking to. So that's one little wonderful trick and tip that I can share. Gratitude is the gateway. Absolutely. 100%. We talked about that enough, but gratitude, just begin right now practicing gratitude. And then giving. Giving is really an important ingredient to building abundance. whatever you're giving. So when I talk about abundance, it's a holistic approach. So it's abundance of relationships, it's abundance of wealth, it's abundance of health, it's abundance of spirituality. So we do a wheel and we talk about all areas of your life. If you want more of whatever you say you want more of, then give it away. So let's say you want more love, give more love away. You want more money. And I'm not talking about it from the perspective of obligation, because I have a lot of times people share with me, oh, I give 20%, and they're doing it out of obligation because they've learned it. That's part of their money story. What I like to give a new technique of giving from the perspective of your right hand does not know what your left hand is doing. Because when you give, you have to give freely and without anybody knowing it. Stephen Covey says, seek first to understand, then to be understood. And I think in the world that we live in today, if we could just practice that more, then that would make a better world. And then one of the other things that I often share with people and ask myself when I'm in a challenging situation or somebody's pushing my buttons is, what would love do? And if you ask yourself when you're in the middle of customer service, people are always the ones that get me a little triggered. I have to stop and go, what would love do? Love wouldn't yell at them. So I think those two things, seek first to understand and then to be understood. And then what would love do in this circumstance? And if you haven't read Stephen Covey's book, then go read the story where he talks about that with the, it makes me cry every time I think about it. The guy on the train with the kids, right? We never know. We never know what someone else is going through, and we judge it as if we do. And so if we seek to understand, if we just begin to practice that one thing, life will become better. And my book is available on Amazon if you want to go check it out there as well.